All right, next up we have what I believe is a hybrid talk, and this is going to be from Satoshi Miyauchi, JP1SCQ of Japan, and Nick Hall-Patch, VE7DXR from Canada. And so let's see, who is here in person? It's all virtual. Okay, they got delayed in the airlines. So if our AV people can help us switch over to a virtual configuration.
Okay, so let's start from here. Okay, so I'm Satoshi Miyauchi, JP1SCQ, radio amateur in JA, and I'm active mostly on HF band, and I'm very happy to be here today. Thank you. There was a very unusual medium wave signal attenuation observed on the day of 9th November 2025. Then we received signals disappeared about 30 minutes. So this is a report for the particular event happened on that day. All right, I think, sorry. All right, so you're seeing the next screen, correct? So a little bit about the expedition that we had. It's in the Tohoku region. It's about 500 kilometers northeast of Tokyo, 39 north, 141 east. And it's the place facing to the Pacific Ocean, then offers very, very nice view around the area. I changed the screen to the third page. Although many of us are licensed radio amateurs, but the expedition was receive only. And we used the SDR receivers such as Perseus or AirSpy HF discoveries, then captured a whole medium wave spectrum onto our PC. The antenna looks like this. We named it. We named it the TDDF, or the twisted double delta flag antenna. Some of you may be more familiar with the receiving antenna of DXers. And the base length of one triangle is 20 meters. And it's like two triangles put together. So the total base length is about 40 meters or 130 feet long. The height is about 5 meters, and the direction, this is an antenna that low noise amplifier is a must. Then this antenna is directed to northeast for target signals from North America. Right, I changed to the next one. Here are some of the exciting catches from this location. In 2018, that we heard a station from South America, Argentina, Uruguay, and 2021 was another exciting year that we could hear the east coast of the United States, WBZ Boston, on 10:30. And from the Pacific West Coast, KFBK 1530 is always very strong here. And it's like a local station, and it's very nice to hear the traffic report of Sacramento every 10 minutes. Okay, so starting from here, the analysis of the STL files using the WebView DX playback software. The vertical axis represents the time, and the horizontal axis show frequencies. So the left starting from 530 kilohertz to the 1700 kilohertz to the right-hand side. On this slide, the left one shows the 10 kilohertz spacing. That means that these are the signals from North America on that day. And the green portions means the signals are coming. Then right-hand side of the screen is showing the signals from Japan and around North China. Then this one, when I saw this 9 kilohertz imported WebView DX file, I was very surprised because unusual attenuation, those black bars suddenly appear on the 7:15 UTC. So those well-received signals disappear nearly 30 minutes until 7:45. So the area circled by yellow here, this made us to this project for more analysis. Then, as one of the possibilities that we can think of was something to do with the local sunset, but our quick answer was no. That is because that on the previous records of the previous day or previous years, there were no similar attenuation recorded. Then there must be another reason that remembering that evening, there was a very, very strong earthquake happened, magnitude 6.9, and epicenter was only 140 kilometers or 90 miles in the Pacific. Then we also heard a tsunami alert on that day. So we even talked at that time that some interesting things might be captured on these records. But anyway, that possible relationship with the earthquake, we questioned. But there were reports, signal strength changes, especially in the very low frequency band, but related noise before earthquake also. But we haven't heard of such attenuation on the medium wave band. So then I tried to identify the stations with two groups. One in the blue is the no visible attenuation, and the red group for heavily attenuated stations. Then I put them onto the map of Japan here. Then it's getting clear that blue signal, the not affected signal stations were north of Japan, and attenuated ones south or southwest of Japan. Okay. Then continuing a little bit more analysis, not only the Japanese stations, but those station signals from China, northeastern China. Then identify those stations and frequencies and plotted them on the Google map again. Then so it's like this. So that's the moment that I sent the SDR files to Nixon for further analysis. Then Nixon then conducted various investigations to further analyze the signal strengths and determine the cause. So now Nixon, I give the microphone to you. I will stop sharing right now.
So now we recognize the attenuations occurred before the earthquake itself occurred. But actually, it's pretty difficult to get indications of what was happening in the landmass of Japan before the earthquake. So we started by looking at the intensities of the earthquake on the landmass of Japan at the time of the earthquake. And we've got these two maps here comparing the two of these with our map. And certainly we can see that we had in the north part of Japan, the earthquake was not felt particularly strongly. And that was where we had no attenuations. However, if we look at the south part of Japan into the west, there's attenuations observed, but in the south part, the earthquake was not really felt at all. So before we went much deeper into this, we thought, well, was there some more obvious cause of the signal dropouts that we had missed? And the first analysis was that, in fact, some of the signals were 25 dB or more attenuations occurring quite suddenly. And so we looked a little more carefully at those and realized that those were the signals that were actually further away from Tanohata. And so this updated version of the Google Maps shows this with the yellow pins indicating signals that have been attenuated by 25 dB or more. So we're now going to look at a couple of example signal strengths. One from Hiroshima, which is 1,000 kilometers, a good distance from Tanohata, and then also from Niigata, which is only 300 kilometers away, and try and compare the signal intensities. And right now we can see, okay, this is Hiroshima's signal. It dropped on 1350 kilohertz. It dropped very, very deeply and quite suddenly. The signal from Niigata, in comparison, although there was attenuation observed, it was much gentler and not nearly so deep. We also threw on this purple trace here, and that's indicating no attenuation of the ground wave from a signal that was only 5 kilometers away. So it looks as if these were skywave signals. All right, we better look again at this sunset terminator. Really, maybe that was more important from the time of the earthquake. And we have put the sunset terminator on here, and you can see, as indicated before, the lack of attenuation on the nighttime side. The daytime side is where the attenuation is observed. And then the more deeply affected signals were further away on the daytime side. So why would more distant signals on the daytime side of the terminator be attenuated more? What event would affect propagation of signals at medium frequencies from the daytime side, but not the nighttime side? And we thought, well, maybe a solar flare. And in fact, when we looked, there had been a 1.7 solar flare observed by Japan's National Institute of Information and Communication, as well as by NOAA. And so they actually did a report at HamSCI, started by observing that there were a number of solar flares, but this one is the one we're interested in, 0735 UTC. And the report stated that what it looked at was some traces, ionoson traces from Okinawa, and at 0710 we have here traces below 5 megahertz. It's showing a nice trace from the E region. By 0735, those traces had disappeared. There was really nothing much below 5 megahertz. And you can see the disappearance of this ionospheric echo. The report referred to this as a delegate phenomenon observed in Okinawa. It's better known in America as a radio blackout. Now, Gwyn Griffiths pointed out that we should look at the D region absorption product model provided by SWPC. The increased absorption in the D region due to solar X-rays and solar particles had the effect on radio propagation effect. The rapidly increasing effect of the solar flares is seen in the heat map displayed in this video. We get to go. We can't. It's unfortunate. Well, not much time, so we better proceed on. If we look at the detail, look back here, we can see the detail, that there is definitely the D region is being affected quite a lot around Japan. So we'll look a little more carefully. We compare on the left-hand side here is the 8th of November when there was no solar flare. And you can see that the heat map is showing very little absorption in the D region. On the other hand, on the 9th of November, there is a heck of a lot of absorption being indicated by the heat map. So first order simulation of medium wave skywave propagation assumes that such signals are heavily absorbed during the daytime because of the solar illumination causing the D region to absorb any signals from the daytime side. But in fact, as sunset approaches, the D region begins to lose its absorptive capabilities because of lower solar illumination. And so we have a rough illustration here of the D region, somewhat artistic liberties taken. But the ray traces from Hiroshima and Niigata to Tanahata are in fact from the Pro program. And you can see that there would be some absorption of the upward going ray trace from Hiroshima on a normal day. And so it would be received into Tanahata. And Niigata, there would be very little absorption at all. But in the next slide, we're going to observe that the D region is in fact much intensified. And so the signal from Hiroshima is being absorbed on the way up and being absorbed on the way down. And even the signals from Niigata are being absorbed somewhat on the 9th of November. So we then took the signal trace from Hiroshima with its deep attenuation, and we overlaid it with this blue trace here, which is the X-ray flux during the course of the solar flare. And you can see it maps very, very nicely. As the X-ray flux increases, the signal from the Hiroshima drops 30 dB in 5 minutes. So in conclusion, the DXers definitely absorbed temporarily attenuated broadcast signals. And during their DX session, shortly afterwards, there was this earthquake, which really caused them to take a deeper look at what was taking place in the signals. However, even though the earthquake was an obvious physical manifestation, it didn't seem to line up very well. And so we looked and found the X-ray flux and from the solar flare seems to have been much more likely to be in the cause of the attenuation. So thank you very much from both of us. It's great fun figuring this out. And our final slide, we give you some YouTube shorts of what happened during the expedition. And also we have the something from the DXer Circle in Japan. And they are they were the ones who provided this particular, all the data from this one. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Satoshi. Thank you, Nick. That was a wonderful presentation, and I thought it showed very nicely how a careful analysis is really important, and sometimes the thing that's drawing the most attention to us is not the thing that you really need to be paying attention to, at least in terms of this radio data. So as our next speaker is coming up, we will take some additional questions. And I can ask the AV techs to reconfigure for an in-person presentation. Any questions for Satoshi and Nick Hall-Patch? All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that wonderful presentation.